All right, on this demonstration video, um, I decided to dedicate this one to streamers out there. You know, people that are broadcasting their gameplays on Twitch or YouTube, or let's say they're linked up with Streamlabs. Um, for this demonstration, I thought I'd try to make it as short as possible if I can, because the last one was like 44 minutes, and I really don't want to go that long this time. So, I'm trying to make this as comprehensive as possible, um, to where anybody can understand. All right, if you are a streamer out there and you're looking to apply any substantial upgrades to your system to make it, uh, not only increase the value of it, but to increase the capabilities of your system. Um, let's say, for instance, your configuration looked very similar to this one, where you had a Core i7 8700K, you had a decent motherboard, 16 gigabytes of DDR4 memory, 1 terabyte solid state drive, an RTX 2080 Ti, decent sized case, and power supply like this, right? This is I just threw this together to show you, uh, what is expected, that a gamer slash streamer would have in their PC, right? Like if they bought a PC in at Best Buy for $2,000 or so US, typically this is what it'll have, more or less. All right. Now, of course, the most valuable asset for streamers always tend to be the graphics cards, right? So in this case, I have the RTX 2080 Ti, which happens to be an 11 gigabyte card. Now, this only happens to be one version that I found on Amazon. And even though it's not being sold right now, it's still a very good graphics card that you can use to stream on. All right. But there was something that I learned about, from a streamer who had a configuration very similar to this. And they ran into an issue where they weren't able to stream Cyberpunk 2077. As far as I am aware, that game is very, very taxing in terms of with the resources that it's going to use on your system. And I figured out later that the problem with their system wasn't necessarily the graphics card, like everything else on their parts list was probably okay. But the one thing that was holding them back in terms of being able to play Cyberpunk and stream it at the same time was the processor. This part up here, the Core i7. All right. Now, the one thing I keep trying to explain to people about these i7s is that not all i7s are made equal. As you can see from this reading here on PC Part Picker. Yes, this is a Core i7 8th generation, which is still decent today. But the problem with it today is that it's only 6 cores. As a matter of fact, it's 6 cores and 12 threads. Let me just verify that right now. Just typing 8700K. So I'm gonna go on to Intel's website to verify that. Look, you see what I mean? 6 cores and 12 threads. And I mean, even though yes, it would support Windows 11. If you were running Windows 10 before, and you, or let's say for instance you were running Windows 10 for a long while, and you wanted to install Windows 11 on your machine, if you still have this processor, it will run it, no problem. It's already supported on the CPU support list when it comes to Intel CPUs. But the problem with streamers, though, is that when they start running into bottlenecks where their CPU is concerned, at that point, it's not worth trying to um, get an upgrade, because you see, this platform only supports the 8th and ninth generation CPUs. So which means that um, um, when it comes to applying any substantial upgrades, the best processor that you'll be able to apply to this motherboard will be something like the 9700K or the 9900K, which is the i9. All right, let me just show you these processors. The 9700K, I believe it's 8 cores and 8 threads. Last time I checked, you see, yeah, 8 cores, 8 threads, right? But the issue with trying to apply any upgrades on this platform here is that when you compare it to, let's say, a 12th generation processor from Intel, it's going to completely destroy it, man, without a doubt. You see? So instead of trying to invest more money in this platform, no, you'll be better off by upgrading the platform and keeping everything else. Because you see, the graphics card, components like the graphics card, the solid state drive, the memory, and the power supply could be possibly reused. So you could literally recycle these bits and keep the and then change the others. All you may have to do is change your CPU and your motherboard. Because if your cooler happens to be, let's say for instance, you had a decent liquid cooler or something like this, you know, a decent dual tower cooler like this one, right? You'll be able to transfer it, you know, because a lot of times these coolers are usually able to support a wide range of socket types. You know, you just have to read the specification sheet of the cooler, you know, depending on which one you have, and on the manufacturer's website, they'll tell you what that cooler will support in terms of generation CPUs. So if I had to go onto the Thermalright website to check this out, I should be able to, for instance, get a decent reading on which socket types this cooler here supports. All right, so as you can see, it says here on the website, Peerless Assassin 120 SE, and these are the socket types. You see, let me zoom in on this to show you. 115X, 1200, and 1700. So here's the thing about it. That this literally means that you could use this cooler on either an 1151 socket, 1155. You could use 1156, LGA 1200, and the 1700. Now the 1200 is the 12th generation, and the 1700 sockets, they will support both 13. Hold on, let me verify that. The LGA 1200 sockets, they only support 10 and 11th generation CPUs from Intel. The 1700 socket, they support the 12th and 13th generation CPUs. All right. So depending, like I said before, depending on which cooler that you've got, you could easily transfer it over to a new motherboard. So that's another piece of your system, well, another part really, that you wouldn't have to spend any extra money on. All right. So as long as, what I'm saying is, as long as your power supply is decent, your case is decent, and especially where your graphics card is concerned, if your graphics card is still relevant today, I'm telling you right now, there's no need to upgrade it. This is how you would save time and save money. This is what I would do. All right. What I would do is I would scrap the i7 8700K and the motherboard, right? And get a new modern processor and motherboard together. Okay, because this processor is only, like I said before, this is only 6 cores and 12 threads. All right, but as good as this is today, it can't touch the 12700K or any 13th generation CPUs from Intel. All right, and I know a lot of people might want to consider another i7 for their streaming needs, but who says it has to be like that all the time? It doesn't have to be that way. The core, here's the thing about it, the core i5s that they've been developing from the time the 12th generation came out, they are so much better than these i7s already, and they offer more cores. So let me show you what I mean. Let's say, for instance, I was going to compare this i7 here to a new i5. All right, I'm going to go onto the Passmark website again, just to show you how far we step up in technology. Now, the thing is, the Core i7 8700K average benchmark score is 13,689. You know, this is not bad, and that's the reason why this i7 is still relevant today. But if I were to compare this now to, let's say, something like a 13600K i5, let me check this out. So remember, this is a Core i5 13th generation. Well, compared to an 8th generation, right? Look at the difference. 38,274. So this is the raw processing power that you're getting on the hood where this i5 is concerned. So here's the thing about it, right? This is what I would do. I would get rid of the i7, get rid of the motherboard, and remember, I'm not changing anything else. I'm going to assume that everything else you have here would be transferable to a new motherboard so that you can save money while you're still able to keep your graphics card. All right, so I'm going to go and look for the 13600K now and add this one to the list. And then now all I have to do is find a compatible motherboard that would support DDR4 type memory. That way you don't have to spend money to get DDR5 just to be compatible. You understand? It's got nothing to do with the memory at all, because the memory can only offer you so much, you know, in terms of multitasking, but it's the processing power that you want. You're not going to be able to do that by focusing on the RAM. Okay, so I'm just gonna go with a simple solution here that I could find, or like that I would recommend myself. Something that would be very inexpensive, you know, not anything that would be too pricey. Let me just check out these motherboards here. I'm looking for a board like price around like 130 to maybe $150 or so. That's still decent. Yeah, this is a Z790. Okay, that's one option. Let me see. Well, Newegg has it for 154. Okay, let's say for instance you go with this. Okay, so you see what this did. I scrapped the i7 8700K and I replaced it with the 13600K 14 core processor, and now I have a new motherboard, and everything else on this list is still compatible. See, so this is how it would work. So because I know for a fact that streamers have to keep up with the algorithm especially on YouTube, you know, this would be a really good shortcut to use where you don't have to spend money to get a new graphics card right now. All right, and you'll be able to save yourself that time as well, because um, when you have to upgrade your graphics card later, let's say a year and a half from now, let's say you want to get rid of your RTX 2080, or let's say you have another graphics card that's similar to this. Now you'll be able to easily sell the graphics card on the market, right? Get some money in your pocket and upgrade the graphics card, because you already have everything else. You already have a decent motherboard, a good CPU. You would have already reused your cooler and your RAM, even the solid state drive too, because all of the programs will be transferable on the solid state drive. The storage is what I mean, right? And even let's say the power supply wasn't adequate enough to handle the 13600K. That's no problem. You could easily swap it, because power supplies in general tend to cost, especially from Corsair, they tend to cost around maybe $115 to $130 for a decent power supply. And you don't have to go for 1,000 watts. No, you could go with a 750 to 850 watt power supply to handle all this. It's just that simple. All right, and that's my tutorial for now. This is Zulu 67 signing off.